All right, everybody, what is going on? What is going on? You guys like that chapter? Huh? It's a pretty good chapter, huh? Hold on. Okay, we got a lot to cover. Kissy out. Kissy out. Out. Go. Out. Kissy, go. Okay. All right, we're good. All right. Let's get the stream likes up to what we need it to be at. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. To Tio oh, shit. Hold on. All right, Tiptio Treviso, thanks for the 2. I wonder where the hell Saturn and Emu are now. They're on the boat. Oh, I would have loved if we did get some sort of conclusion that also included Emu, but Oda's saving him. Oda's saving him for, Elbaf, rest of the story or whatever. I'm still very, very, very happy with everything that we got from Roger and Garp. I thought that fight was phenomenal. How'd you guys like the fight? Nirad, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 8 months. Amazing chapter. Finally glad to see great fights, choreo between top tiers. Now we got to address the elephant in the room. What's your opinion on that now? All right, I know what we're all talking about. Here's my simple opinion. I feel like those weren't hockey cutting attacks, and therefore it's not swordsmanship. I'm just kidding. Okay, we're done with the debate has a pin in it unless any further evidence emerges. I am on the train now of basically I don't think there's anything. As far as we've seen, there's nothing. No additional hockey techniques or anything like that from the Roger camp, Rock's camp, both of them using swords, just swords coated with hockey, swordsmanship. So Mihawk, as far as I can tell, is going to be above Shanks. I'm on that train now. Unless we get any new evidence or something like that, I'm done. Like my chips have shifted to that side. I'm good. I just wanted to see. I don't think it was unfair for me to actually want to see how Roger fought in the past, how Rox fights in the past, stuff like that, before we determine that there's not really anything more to hockey. But it doesn't seem like there's anything more to hockey. It seems like we're basically just we've hit the ceiling in terms of basically hockey as a combat skill is just something to coat your standard fighting style with. And Roger's a swordsman. Rox is a swordsman. Shanks is a swordsman. Mihawk's a swordsman. It's done. Mihawk's above Shanks. We could get into all the debates of like Mihawk versus these other top tiers or whatever. Well, what about Mihawk versus the old era? Roger, Rox, etc. But at the very least, the main focal point of the debate, which I think everybody really cares about, Mihawk Shanks, I'm on Mihawk. If something shifts, then and there's evidence that there is something new to hockey, then that might change my opinion as well. But I'm fine swapping. Like, for me, it was never for people who don't know, I used to like Mihawk better than Shanks, at least for the most of pre-time skip One Piece, because I never liked Shanks' design, and I thought Mihawk's design was cooler. It was kind of as simple as that. But as the story went on, I felt like Shanks got built up more and more and more. Mihawk, post-Marineford, he just didn't look good in Marineford. I stopped feeling like there was that much of an argument for Mihawk greater than Shanks. It felt like Oda's building up Shanks as the more significant character, which is probably still true, but also more significant than just in terms of strength, right? I also felt like we didn't know the ceiling of hockey for a long time, and I felt like Shanks might represent the ceiling of hockey. However, at this point in time, you got to go with what's being shown. So if at this, we're very deep in the story, I'm okay with shifting back to Mihawk because I never really had that much of a stake in terms of Shanks being stronger than Mihawk. I just felt like it was unfair to draw a conclusion before we actually saw everything that's involved in hockey combat. I think now there doesn't appear to be anything else, so we're good. Mihawk, I feel like Shanks fans just got to hold it unless something... I'll say this. If Shanks fans are very, very confident that Shanks is stronger than Mihawk, then you should also feel fine just being like, okay, well, we'll wait and see that Shanks has something special that Roger didn't have or something like that. But I don't feel like I want to make that argument unless something actually presents itself. So I'm fine with Mihawk greater than Shanks. I think God Valley, at least for me, puts a pin in the debate. Unless something new comes up, I'm just going to, any rankings that you see me do, I'll put Mihawk above Shanks. I always had them like one space apart in any rankings that I've done, so that's not a big sort of changing for me. Continuing on. Fading Phase, thanks for the 5. Love seeing Garp haters choking on his words this chapter. He stayed to protect the Marines, as we should have already known. Also, Whitebeard upscale. Is this Whitebeard upscale? Why is this Whitebeard upscale? I mean, I think that Whitebeard, Roger, Garp at this point in their primes are all basically tie. Like, it just seems like that's what Oda seems to be portraying. But I don't think that I don't think this changes anything in that regard, right? Let's get Streamlights up to 100 real quick. Titanium Dragon says they really went full Marco Polo. I love the chapter. If I had to pick one part of the chapter I thought was dumb, I'd say that part of the chapter. JP, thanks for the 5, said in a past dono that Imu was using defensive Conquerors Haki sort of as a joke and now it's real. No, because I don't think that's defensive. He's getting cut up. They're piecing him up. In fact, Rox even cuts him in his first attack. Imu's thing is different because Imu's able to regenerate. That's different from Conqueror's Haki as far as we can tell. Meek, thanks for the 10. Morge, what's up? Sorry for the delay. Scans came slow. Best/worst part of the chapter in your opinion? BTW, where do you think Rayleigh/Gaban are going? Best/worst part of the chapter. I don't think there's a worst part of the chapter. I think best part of the chapter, for me, the final page. I thought the final page was really cool. So, I don't know call me crazy, but maybe we need to see it in color or whatever, but Roger's final move looked to me, Garp's move was a really, really cool, like, I think I love that reference by Oda that he's just showing, because I've said this before, Garp is basically Luffy if Luffy didn't have a Devil Fruit. That's what peak Luffy's fighting style would look like. It would look like Garp, right? And so I love that Oda showed the Gatling and everything like that. Roger's move, I like the Ace reference, obviously, and I know that's the name of his sword or whatever, but I think the really cool thing to me about Roger's move is that visually it looks almost like a Demon Slayer type move. It looks like a Demon Slayer type move, you know? Haki Bloom Theory dead. I was sad about that one because I just want to see a really cool Haki Bloom from... I feel like the opportunities are so... I don't know. For me, that's like a really dramatic way to close this battle. But obviously Oda doesn't want Imu to be like... I guess affected by anybody, it seems like that's not Joy Boy or I assume Luffy by the end of the story. So Oda's saving that. So against Dami Reversi Rocks, it seems like Roger and Garp, they can just do it. I would have loved to see a Haki Bloom though. I think that would have been really cool. Tom, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 37 months, man. I love Dragon's Moment so much. Oh, fuck. I forgot. Favorite moment. Best/worst part of the chapter, and where do I think Rayleigh and Gaban are going? Best/worst part of the chapter. I feel like best part of the chapter. Loki Dragon's moment got me the most hyped because I just recognized what Tom said. Loki Dragon's moment got me really hyped for that character. I love the explosion of emotion out of him because you don't normally see him like that. Even as a young kid, he was more reserved and sort of put together, but you don't see that. I love that explosion of emotion. Dragon is probably the character I'm most looking forward to in the final war at this point, so love that. But favorite moment, yeah, final attack by Roger and Garp. And then least favorite part, I don't know, maybe I thought the Polo stuff was dumb, personally. I thought the Polo stuff was kind of dumb. I would rather Whitebeard have just found Orphan Marco and taken him in, and that could kind of start Whitebeard's role as basically being a father figure to people, but I don't like the Naruto thing where every parent is like a carbon copy of their kid. I feel like I just don't like that direction. Okay, Tom said, I want to start a One Piece channel, but beginning to work on videos is so daunting. Any tips? Oh, yeah. I would say, like, okay, so, how do I say this? My route was different because when I started, there was nobody doing analysis type videos on One Piece consistently. So I just started putting out videos and I didn't really have a scope for what the broader sphere was. I think if you want to get started, I think the One Piece YouTube sphere is very oversaturated now. But I would say think about the type of videos that you want to do. Think if they're like unique, right? Think if they're unique. Or if they're not unique, if it's similar to what other people are doing, like let's say chapter reviews, chapter discussions, then one, think about how you can differentiate yourself. Why should somebody listen to your thing instead of others? And then try and emulate what you see from other people as well. So it's a tricky line where you're trying to copy what works from other people, but you're trying to make it in your own, with your own spin on it. Does that make sense? So like, if you notice that nobody's doing chapter reviews of like chapters that came out like 2 years ago, don't do that, right? Like simple stuff, like just kind of get the idea of what seems to be content that people like to watch, but carve out your own niche in terms of how you want to do that type of content. Bonfagun, thanks for the 5. Love how Garp's choosing to stand up for justice, even if it means giving up a freer life as a pirate. A true hero putting justice before freedom. That is a true hero, despite what other people say. The easier option is being a pirate. That's the crazy thing. I think people don't get, like, what Garp's doing is the harder option. The easier option is just being a pirate. Literally, like, look at Garp and Roger's 2 goals coming here. Garp's like, yeah, my goal was basically to take down the 2 strongest pirates in existence and, like, take him into headquarters. And Roger's goal was like, my goal was to come in, grab some grab some ass, grab some treasure, and then, like, peace out of here. It's just a very different life, you know? Lockwin Dong, thanks a lot. Big Mom and Kaido had a nice interaction, but it was very odd how they gave up on Rock so fast after standing by him last week. Didn't even comment on Emu. Yeah, that's the thing. So, like, actually, I just recorded my chapter review, and that's something that came up in the patron comments from the chapter review. By the way, Pirate King Podcast, last chance, I think, to get in your submissions. I'm going to be recording the Pirate King Podcast very soon. If you want to get in your submissions for the Pirate King Podcast, go do so right now. It is an hour-and-a-half long podcast that I record every single month for my top tier of patrons and top tier of YouTube members, and I answer questions on everything. One Piece, YouTube, anime, manga, real life, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so if you want to get access to that podcast and you get access to all 20-something of the previous podcasts, then just go join the Pirate King tier. Yeah, I've said this before. So I said this in the Voice of the People at the end of my chapter review, which is, I feel like, and I've talked about this in past streams too, Oda is an author who will ultimately prioritize, his strength is emotion over logic. That is One Piece's strength, in the sense that it's kind of like, you know, in Hunter x Hunter, where you have like those meme panels of, or meme pages of like characters explaining like a million different things, like explanation after explanation after explanation of just like why this, right? So Hunter x Hunter's author is clearly very, like, Togashi is clearly very focused on, like, I need to explain why every single thing has to make sense, and I need to respond to any mental objection a reader might have, right? Oda is very different. Oda's thing is basically just like, I feel like this scene will be very emotional. I want to get to this scene. I'm okay with, like, but if I'm constrained for time or whatever, I'm okay with sort of cutting some corners and just being like, readers can suspend their disbelief just to get to that scene. So, for example, the 2 things that really happened here are, I am convinced that Oda definitely wanted to draw that panel, that scene, of all 6 of the old legends fighting Emu. I'm certain that Oda wanted to do that. That seems like a very important thing. It's the first, like, full double-page spread that he's done in, like, God knows how long. I guess it's one of the few post-time skip, right? He really wanted to do that. That's probably something he wanted to do from the beginning. And that's fair, because that's like something that we all got really hyped about, right? Oda also wanted the fight to ultimately be Roger and Garp versus Dami Reversied Rocks, right? That's clearly the bigger setup that Oda was leading to, right? So how do you get from A to B without wasting too much time? You basically have to make characters act a little bit dumb and be willing to leave the fight over... I'm not saying it's like a dumb thing. Like, you could make the argument that, like, oh, I've seen people say, like, it happened so fast, they probably didn't process what's happening, etc. But then you could say, but post-fact, they could probably process that, hey, that's clearly not what Rox is normally like, so something was probably up there rather than feel a sense of betrayal, right? It's just, I don't think that matters that much to Oda. He just wanted to get from scene A to scene B, and so he had to clear some space in between. Dami reverse Rox, have him take out the Yonko. Why don't they come back? They feel a sense of betrayal from Rox. I don't think that deeply shapes any of their characters, so it's fine. I guess it technically deeply shapes Kaido in that he remembers that as a deep betrayal, but it also almost never plays into Kaido's actual character. Like, he mentions it once in Wano, and you're like, oh, how's this going to influence the story or the plot? It doesn't. It doesn't really matter for him. He doesn't reference it again. Weekly Zonin, thanks for the 5. Is it over? Is Garp's name clear yet? Can I finally stop running defense? I think at this point, people who hate Garp are just going to hate Garp no matter what. Nick's Queen, thanks for the 2. Black holes are a collapse of mass. Blackbeard upscale? I guess. I need to read some Viz translations about that mass thing. But that's, I don't know. Andre Torres, thanks for the 6. The God Valley flashback is a 10 out of 10 for me, but I still think it has the same problems as Wano. Too many characters, and some don't get to shine. Yeah, Oda did have a lot of characters here. Cutting away to Ganzui and shit while we're seeing the Roger Rox Garp battle is like, that's interesting. Sorry, my hair is drying right now. Just took a shower because got to go somewhere right after stream. Yeah, I think too many characters, but I still think it's a 10 out of 10 flashback overall, and we're not even done yet because we haven't gotten to the real juicy part, which I think is going to be Rox's death, Oda loves writing really good death scenes. He's very good at it. Abyssal Leviathan, thanks to the 2. Thoughts on Imu just leaving on a ship, LMAO? I think it's funny. I would obviously have liked it better if the confrontation continued with him, but Oda doesn't want Roger and Garp to be able to challenge Imu, and that's totally fair. He wants to keep Imu just above that level till the end of the story. So you kind of just have to make Imu leave of his own accord. I think it's funny that he left via ship. I guess you kind of have to do that, otherwise people, Marines would be questioning, hey, what happened to Saint Saturn? Shouldn't we wait for him? And so, Saturn's got to get on board the ship and head out like that, Little Dragon 21, thanks for the 5. This chapter had me overstimulated. Lol, Garp and Roger this chapter would just peak. That line that they told their crews that they'll return gave me chills. Yeah, 100%. Let's get the stream lights up to 100 real quick. Amazing chapter. Very reminiscent of, Luffy, Ace in a sense as well. Luffy and Ace, you can see them both in that. And that sort of, holding it down to protect their crew, protect their people. Ace has been doing that since childhood. Luffy became that type of man for his crew. Great stuff. Emigdio Alvarez, thanks a lot. Maybe I'm coping, but I don't think the fight ended there. Raylan and Gaban are going to the fight to make Roger save them and have his hockey bloom. I would love if that happens. I would absolutely love if that happens, but I'm not gonna hold out for that mentally because I am genuinely happy with the way the fight played out. I think it's a great fight. I think it's I think we're set up for a really good emotional chapter after this. I would love for more things to happen and see that sort of situation. And I do think it's interesting that Rayleigh and Gaban are running to the center of the island. But if I'm not going to hedge my enjoyment of it on that because I already really, really like what everything Oda's given us. So I'm good. If we do get that stuff, that's amazing. That's phenomenal. But I think already everything that we've gotten has made me very, very happy. And I'm really looking forward, honestly, to see the whole display out in the anime. Drink water, Pegdy's leg, thanks to the 2. I was looking forward to Gaban cutting Sommers. Oh, yeah. I guess it's just a reputation thing that he fears Gaban. Basam El Madawi, thanks for the 5. Maybe Kuma sent Teach to Elbaf randomly. Imu then found out about the Davy clan's survival and went to Elbaf. Harold saves Blackbeard to make up for Rocks. My God. What the fuck is Harold going to do in this situation? I'm mad. What's Harold doing in this situation? Where is he? I was holding out for that. That's one thing I was holding out for, that Harold would redeem himself in some way here, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Harold better show up. Parlays, thanks for the 5. How do you feel about the idea that Zoro has PTSD from his defeat by Kuma, and it's caused him to be a lot harder on himself and his crewmates post-time skip? I don't think that's... sure, if the story wants to introduce that idea, but otherwise it's just headcanon, right? Marsai Mitchum, thanks for the 5. I think what actually happened is that I do think that there has been a general flanderization of the Straw Hats post-time skip, simply because pre-time skip, Oda had more time to focus on the Straw Hats because arcs weren't so side character focused. Post-time skip, most arcs are extremely side character focused, and there's a shit ton of side characters, which just by the very nature of that fact means that the Straw Hats are going to get less screen time. When they get less screen time, and Oda's not writing meaningful stories and meaningful dialogue for them because they're essentially side characters in their own story, it's simpler to write them as their two-dimensional selves, which flanderizes them. So then it kind of just is like, okay, you could literally, like, for a lot of chapters and stuff, you could have on autopilot somebody filling out the dialogue. It's like Frankie's in the background saying super or something about cola or something about how great the sunny is. Brooks making some panty joke or some skull joke. Or Usopp saying something about how he's scared of an island, right? Zoro saying something badass and kind of cold-hearted. Or Robin saying something morbid, right? That kind of became the vibe for the Straw Hats for a long time. I feel like that's shifting. But I think it's more so just a result of simplification of a lot of their dialogue for the sake of, like, accommodating more outside characters. Marsai Mitchum, thanks for the 5. Theory, final war matchups will be Blackbeard Pirates versus Holy Knights versus Revolutionaries. The Straw Hats versus Cross Guild versus Marines. Marines and Holy Knights will fall first. I don't know. I still feel like it'll be almost everybody versus God's Knights and Revolution, or God's Knights and Gorosan stuff first. And then it will lead to a bit of overlap between, like, Straw Hats versus Blackbeard Pirates, but also the defeat of Emu. I think Marines and God's Knights and Gorosei go down before Blackbeard Pirates and Emu. JP, thanks for the 5. Apparently, in Japanese, Dragon's Line was the same as Luffy's Bring It On in Enies Lobby. Oh my god. I think that is my favorite One Piece moment still. Like, so there's, like, 3 translations that I've read of that line, and I love all of them. So the simplest one I read is just, like, Bring It On. What's the other one? Bring It On. There's a second one. And the third one that I really, really love is, like, one where Luffy says, I'd be happy to live with that. I think that's my favorite. What's the second one? Bring It On. I think Bring It On's the simplest translation. Anyway, I love that that's the same as... I want to read the viz for that. Eric, Eric, what's up, man? Thanks for the 5. Disappointed we didn't get the Roger stuff we were looking for. Disappointed the answer is just more hockey. I mean, it's always going to be just more hockey and just more hockey in One Piece. I just was hoping that there'd be, like, another level to things rather than just, like, the same concept reapplied. Vinny, thanks for the 3. Double Fruit user can't be dommied because they already have a devil in them. Oh, that's an interesting idea. That's a very interesting idea. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. That's a very interesting idea. Julian Reed, thanks for the 5. The people mad that hockey is the answer are odd. What else would it be? If Oda introduced a new power system 1,100 chapters in, they would call it stupid. I'm not upset that it's hockey. I've been saying that I think hockey's the answer. Are you saying other people are saying that? Mr. MMF2, thanks a lot. 1, Roger hinting about Hockey Bloom. 2, hockey's the solution for Emu's power. 3, Ray and Gabon back for their captain. My YouTuber called it all. Warge. Look, if we're set up for something more, because Rayleigh and Gabon are going back, if we're set up for something more, that's awesome. That's phenomenal. I'd be over the moon if that stuff happened. I'm not going to be, like, holding out hope for, like, the next 2 weeks or whatever that happens, because I'm already good. Like, if this is everything that God Valley is, I'm good. I just want a really good final send-off for Rocks that treats the character well after this. I think that's the only thing I'm really hoping for, and Oda pretty much always does that really well. That's one of his most consistently great strengths. So, like, but obviously I'd be happy if we got more stuff, you know? Who's not going to be happy for more? Andrew Mungai, thanks for the 2. J.K. Kane, thanks for being... Oh my god, hold on. Here we go. J.K. Kane, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 37 months, man. Roger's about to go LeBron, 0 Dark 30, 23, active on Rocks. Can't wait. Garp and Roger dynamics, so fun. I wish I could see more. 10 out of 10 peak piece. What do you... You saying he's going to fuck up Rocks more? His corpse? Yeah, and Garp and Roger's dynamic, I really, really love. It's basically what Ace and Luffy would be, kind of like it's a little look at that, right? If Ace didn't grow up with, you know, daddy issues and everything, and Luffy grew up maybe a little bit more serious. But yeah, 10 out of 10 peak. I love this chapter. Fatinga, thanks for the 5. Just an observation, but I like how Saturn has been by far the most focused on Gorosei in the story so far. I just think he has the coolest design, lol. Saturn does have a really, really cool design, but I think, to me, it's the other way around. I think he's focused on here in that, like, Saturn's the Gorosei that's already been, Oda, like, in the modern day, Oda kind of wiped him off the board, and he kind of implied he's the weakest of the Gorosei and the least significant, right? So, if you're going to have Imu hop in and just, like, possess somebody, I guess Oda was cool with it being a Gorosei that we already don't feel any sort of long-term significance towards, you know? Like, people are hyped for, let's say, Venus Juro or Warcury, so I think it would be kind of like, man, Imu just, like, possessed them and, like, treated him like a puppet for the whole, like, just like a vassal for him to use. I feel like that'd be a little underwhelming, so I think it's more like Saturn is the Gorosei that Imu was, like, Oda was okay with using for this. Salvador, thanks for the 5. Roger better defeat Rocks by hitting him in the chest area. I like how Ace hit Blackbeard with a fire spear. Elbaf as Usopp's arc seems very grim if the arc ends at 1200. Shit, I think we'll be back. I think at the rate we're going, we'll be back in Elbaf at 1170. And 30 chapters is still a lot to go. But I agree that could be really fucking tight. So I don't know. I mean, Rocks is defeated, right, as far as we can tell. It felt climactic. And they said that they'd be out of hockey after this, basically. Bill, thanks to the 2. Polo is Marco. He dies and resurrects from his fruit. That's a really cool theory. That's a really cool... I like that theory. I like that theory a lot. I really, really, really like that theory. Okay, never mind. Forget what I said. And maybe that's what makes Whitebeard basically start being a father, essentially. Like, Polo dies, is reborn, and Whitebeard's like, fuck, I guess I'm raising this kid again. And then, you know, he raises up his... That's so cool, because then I guess their relationship starts with kind of a traditional, like, captain first mate thing where they're, you know, like they're similar ages and stuff like that, and Polo wants to be the right hand to Whitebeard and everything. But then what we see in the modern day at Marineford, there's a huge age gap between Whitebeard and Marco, right? Which is not traditional of captains and their first mates. And Whitebeard's more like a father to Marco. I think that's Bill, that's like one of my favorite theories. That's phenomenal. I like that a lot. Dick so small I piss on my balls. Thanks to the 5. Kaido tells the Scabbards pirates will run away because one of the 3 ways his character revolves around despair is he tries to weaponize it against enemies. Sure, if we want to be very generous with interpretations of the depth of Kaido's character, we could roll with that. Justin Hahn, what's up, man? Thanks for the 5. Maybe Luffy will somehow undo Dami Reversi without killing the victims, showing him close to Joy Boy's level, but he needs to level up just a bit more. I do feel like with Dami Reversi, it's possible that the Nika fruit is the answer, because people have mentioned on streams and things like that in the past, maybe the music from Nika's drum beat and stuff, because all the giants start dancing. Like, it's clear that Nika actually does seem to emanate music. There is music, it seems like, when he transforms. And music, as has been explained in One Piece many times, music literally affects the soul. So, yeah, I think that would be cool. Maybe Luffy will somehow undo the Dami Reversi. It's either that or hockey, but in this case, I would prefer the answer to be something Nika fruit related. Andrew Mungai, thanks for the 5. Do strongest hockey we've seen not even be being attacks? Rocks Barrier and Joy Boy not only solo hockey splits we've seen so far. Shanks upscale. Listen, man, I'm not gonna... if you want... I'm not gonna put... Look, maybe. Maybe. Anything's possible. It's still possible that Shanks is stronger than Mihawk. I'm just not going to be really making that argument anymore. If you ask me, I'm going to say Mihawk is above Shanks based on everything we've seen. So, like, everything's possible, right? Anything's possible. But that's not... I'm not going to take every single thing of hockey from here on as basically like, oh, this means Shanks upscale or anything like that. If there's some new hard evidence, like a clear new thing that's different from everything we've been seeing hockey-wise, then we can open up that conversation again, right? If there's new evidence, things can change, right? That's how you should always approach power scaling. If there's new evidence, you can change. But at the moment, I'm not confident enough that what Rocks did is so totally different than just, you know, really strong Conqueror's coding, which is basically just a general part of hockey combat, you know? Bonfagam, thanks for the 5. Do you think Damir Versi necessarily grants regeneration? Rox didn't heal from his injuries, nor did Broggy after losing his arm. It doesn't look like it does. It doesn't look like it does that, which is interesting. Because, like, God's Knights and stuff like that get that. Titanium Dragon, thanks for the 5. So Garling just got labeled the champion. Really want to know what his plan was for setting the tournament on God Valley and what his plan is now for the world government. Garling... Nobody's stocks have fallen further than Garling's. It's just like... What I think would be really fucking fun... Where is Garling right now? Is he still on the island? I think it would be really fucking funny if, like, Rayleigh and Gaban get back... And Roger and Garp are tapped out, so maybe Garling gets back up to try and kill them. And then Rayleigh and Gaban just fuck him up again. I think that'd be really funny. Omarwa, thanks for the 2. OG Marco might appear in the Void Sentry flashback. Oh, that's an interesting idea. But I would imagine then that Marco doesn't keep his memories, right? Because it seems like he doesn't... The way Marco talks today, it's not like he knows ancient history, is what it seems like. Yeah, that's just what it seems like to me so far. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Let's get stream likes up to 150. And... Hold on. Yeah, let's get stream likes up to 150. Okay. All that hockey, and Shanks could never beat Mihawk once. Lol. Ray. Well, we don't know if he never beat Mihawk once, but we know who got the last win, the title holder. Titanium Dragon, thanks for the 2. So will Rox become buggy somehow? Oh, I mean, I don't think so. Eric Tolado said, Eric, what's up, man? Marco is 7 at God Valley. The Oda can change that, though. Yeah, Oda can play with the ages. I wasn't sure. Never mind. The theory's dead. Unless Oda changes the ages, because maybe Oda didn't have that in mind. Also, hold on a second here. While we got people in here, let me show you all something. So, as I'm sure you've seen, we have the Boss Posters collection. The Boss Posters collection. It's not on my walls just yet, still being shipped to me. But we've got all the One Piece bosses, and if you're a big fan of God Valley, we have, of course, got Rox himself and Emu. And we got Mihawk. Big W day for Mihawk fans. We got everybody. If you are interested in this collection, we're running it for November. Rox and Emu are only going to be in production. These 2 posters of them are only going to be in production for this month. We've got amazing deals in that you can buy 2 posters, any 2 Boss Collection posters you want, any 2 of these you want. And you get another 2... Wait, hold on. Is my audio working? Yeah, audio is working. All right. You get another 2, any 2 you want free, and you get either Rox or Emu free. So if you're Team Rox, you get to throw in Rox for free. If you're Team Emu, you get to throw in Emu for free. So you get 5 posters for the price of 2. So make your way over to One Dream Studio. And here's the big thing. Listen up to this part. We're also hosting a giveaway. We just launched the One Dream Studio Instagram. So all of our future stuff is going to be going on here as well. If you want a chance at winning the entire collection, all of these posters for yourself for free, then just go right now and give us a follow on Instagram. And you're immediately entered in the giveaway. The giveaway winner will be picked at the end of November. I forget the exact date, but it will be picked on stream. I think it's the last Monday of November. So, yeah. If you're interested in the posters, just go get them right now. Buy 2, get another 2 free, and either Rox or Emu free. So buy 2, get 3 free, really. Rox and Emu only available this month. After that, they're off the board. No longer available. And if you want a chance of just getting the whole thing for free, if you want a shot, then just go give us a follow on Instagram. Every single person who follows us on Instagram has a shot at winning the giveaway. It will be selected at the end of the month. So you know what? I'll drop the Instagram link. For y'all. And yeah, if you just want to support too, the Instagram is new. You know? Instagram's new. We literally just launched it. All right, continuing on. JWP, what's up, man? Thanks for the 5. Morge, man, I was watching your last stream, and the way you pronounce Kaguya wrong makes me want to cry. Please stop it. You're hurting my head. Man, how do I pronounce it? Kaguya. Is it Kaguya? I just feel like... I don't know. I don't know how I see words so differently in terms of pronunciations than other people. I promise I'm not doing it on purpose. It's just like what makes sense to me phonetically is just consistently the opposite of what everybody else feels. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Prophet Glutton, thanks for the 5. Big Mom said 6 times now she plans to collect on Kaido's debt. How do you think she'll do it? I say she takes his soul and gets a much needed buff. The thing is that, look, I like Big Mom's character better now, so I'm less opposed to her return now. But it's also just not as exciting as a Kaido return. Especially because, imagine, like, Oda has a route to Kaido's return if he wants to take it. It almost makes me feel like Oda might have left the route open for that, which is awakenings, right? How did Luffy awaken his zone after a near-death experience, right? Or death experience, whatever you want to call it. Could Kaido also experience death, pseudo-death, or whatever, and awaken? I think that'd be really cool. Plot-wise, I guess in terms of, like, what's more exciting for the story and interesting for the story, it's Kaido's return. What's more likely in terms of, like, plot setups and, like, stuff like that, it's Big Mom's return. But even with the newfound stuff with Big Mom, I'm not, like, excited about the possibility of a Big Mom comeback, personally. You know? Even if she comes back with a Kaido buff, I don't know. I'd rather they both come back. If Oda's gonna bring Big Mom back, then I'm like, just bring them both back. If Oda's just bringing one of them back, I would rather it be Kaido, but it would be more likely to be Big Mom. Wise Life Jedi, thanks for the 2. Could God Valley be erased by using the Abyss? To me, it seems like Imu's going to use Uranus, because if he was going to use the Abyss, whatever that is, then wouldn't he have stayed on the island to do it? It seems like he's... I don't know. Carnage, thanks for the 5. Roger holding back tears would have hit harder if Oda fleshed out a relationship between them instead of wasting time on that Snake Herald. Okay, here's the thing. The Rocks and Herald relationship, I think very well done, and the falling out very well done. I think the thing that's missing is Herald coming back. I think as the whole thing was playing out, I think we were all just like, damn, this hits hard. I wonder how they reunite or whatever and, like, meet back in the middle. And now it's like, maybe that just doesn't happen. Maybe Herald just sucks. I agree that it would be great if we had gotten a bit more from Roger and Rocks. I feel like what we're seeing now, though, is at the very least, like, I don't think it's so much Roger crying because he was so close to Rocks. I don't think it's ever implied he was close to Rocks. But I do believe that everyone of that era understood what Rocks represented. And I think Roger can respect who Rocks is as a pirate, right? Like, I think it's more so seeing, maybe I'm adding too much to the scene that's not really inherent to the scene. But I do feel like this is more so Roger and Garp seeing this enemy of theirs, like this great enemy of theirs, right? That they both technically went to God Valley to fight, fallen, right? And reduced to something that is, in a sense, like obviously very strong, but pathetic. He's had his dignity, he's had his autonomy stripped from him. I feel like and they're having to kill him, not out of some sort of like justified rage or anger or sense of justice like Garp or whatever. They're having to kill him as a mercy killing to put him down like he's a dog. I think that inherently carries a lot of feelings that one would feel. I think that inherently carries a lot of complex emotions for somebody like Roger, who at the very least we know respects the ideas of freedom and being a pirate and being your own self, right? And again, Roger and Garp both do respect Rocks' strength. That's why he's been a target for them, right? So just seeing that happen to him, I think, stirs up complex emotions for them. I don't think it's like, oh, they had a really tight bond. It's more so just the tragedy of what they're seeing happen to a man like Rocks in front of their eyes, you know? And he's begging, like, this was their enemy before, and he's begging them. He's literally, like, it's fucking sad. Like, he's having to beg them to kill him. Like, it's sad, like, seeing... I think that fucking Luffy might feel some like emotions like that if he saw that, if like he was fighting Kaido, like a version of, maybe Kaido's a bad example because Kaido fucking enslaved Wano and shit, and he was a slaver. But I don't know, Luffy fighting one of his enemies or something, or like at least a rival of his, right? And then seeing them reduced to that. Imagine in this scenario, I guess Luffy doesn't really have an equivalent to that because Kid never reached that status or anything. I don't know. I don't know if you can kind of see what I'm getting at, but maybe if Luffy, earlier, if he saw Smoker or something reduced to that, you know? Like a clear enemy, but not somebody that Luffy necessarily like thinks is like the worst of the worst, but a clear enemy, clearly somebody he wants to beat, and then stripped of all of his dignity, autonomy, and being forced to beg Luffy to kill him, I think that would hit Luffy in a certain way, you know? Katakuri might be a good example. Yeah. So I get, like, I don't think it's so much that there's, like, a relationship that's missing there. I think it's more so just, like, the inherent tragedy of what's happening to a rival of theirs, you know? Ajay, thanks for the 2. Fuck Garp, Marines are last people who need protection. I don't want to go through this like a million times. Look, the Marines at God Valley, yeah, they're fucking pieces of shit. But the average fucking Marine in the world has been established throughout One Piece to be... It's been established... It's just it's been established so often throughout One Piece that Marines do in fact generally help citizens. And the average Marine doesn't just fucking suck. There's a solid mix. Like, for every Kobe, you have an Axe-Hand Morgan, right? For every Smoker, you have, like, a full body or something like that, right? But you do have, like, a solid... Like, it's meant to be a spectrum, right? And there are a large number of Marines that have been established as, like, actually people that are trying to protect citizens and who generally don't know any of the evil stuff. The Marines are a product of brainwashing as well. Jude, thanks for the 3. Do you know Quipu? Reminds me of Joy Boy's hockey knot. No, I don't know Quipu. I'd say I might... Okay, I do want more understanding from Garp's philosophy after this. Did he set out basically to try and change the Marines from the inside? Did he create Sword? Was he like, I'm going to inspire a future generation of Marines to think for themselves and try and break free of brainwashing? Did he consider trying to out Emu and all of that stuff? Who knows? I want to know. JWP, thanks for the 20, man. I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying that God Valley was underwhelming. I disagree because we honestly got more fights and named attacks than I thought we would, and the story was 10x better than we thought. Am I an Oda's angel? So I think that... How do I say this? So I have actually a whole video... I actually have a whole video next week breaking down my full thoughts on the fight. Do I think God Valley was underwhelming? One, I want to see the rest of it play out because we also want the emotional payoff of everything, right? We want to see what happens with Rocks. We want to see, like, I'm sure there's still... You know how, like, Kuma's flashback was really solidified by that final chapter, right? Like, let's let those things play out. As for the God Valley incident itself, I think Oda played to some of his greatest strengths, which is, one, Oda is really good at surpassing expectations very often and, like, playing with the perceptions readers have and, like, going beyond them, right? He's really good at that. So, for example, when all 6 legends, all the Yonko plus Rocks, Roger, and Garp had that huge team attack on Emu, that was surreal. That was way beyond what anybody thought would happen at God Valley. Nobody even knew that Emu was coming to God Valley. Like that, if you go back like 10 chapters, 15 chapters, that wasn't on anyone's fucking bingo card. Like, nobody expected that, right? So the simple fact that Emu arrived at God Valley and that all the legends fought him at the same time, that is fucking mind-blowing. If you told a One Piece fan that 2 years ago, they would have been fucking like, no, you're lying, it's fan fiction, yada yada. So... in a sense, Oda is really good at surprising readers and going even beyond what he pitched initially, right? The flip side is Oda's habit of cutting certain things short despite the fact that it's stuff that readers would really fucking love. It's strange because it's like... It's almost like softballs. Like, it's so easy. Like, you can just knock it out of the park. It's like... just show more action, more fighting between them versus Imu. But he has a strict pace at which he wants to progress the narrative. I strongly believe that like Oda sticks to certain timelines when it comes to sequences of events, right? That's why you see such clear narrative arcs beginning and ending at usually like 50 chapter marks or 100 chapter marks, right? And I feel like flashbacks, you can usually track like, okay, this flashback just happened to be exactly like 10 chapters or something like that, right? So I'm not saying this flashback, I'm saying flashbacks in general. So it's complicated because like Roger and Garp fighting like not just rocks, but like a demon amped version of rocks, that's even cooler than what Sengoku told us at God Valley, right? But did the fight itself, was it as elaborate as some people would have hoped? It's complicated because like because the excitement from this whole story largely comes from the build-up to these big showdowns that Oda's pitching, right? But then we get to the showdowns and it's like Oda's kind of having to move through them while just showing us snippets because Oda's also set up all this other stuff on the side. So we have to go cut back to see like what happened between Ganzui versus Captain John. Bullshit that nobody really cares about, right? Because he likes setting so much stuff up. It's just, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm just kind of reflecting. I want to read God Valley again from start to finish. I'll get a better feeling. Like for me, right now, my instinct is to say, I think it's a 10 out of 10 flashback. That's my instinct. I would love if this could have just been a full pure chapter of Roger and Garp versus Rocks. I would have loved that. I wouldn't say it's underwhelming. It's just, I don't think it's underwhelming because I think the stuff that we saw from it was really cool to me. I'm just always going to scratch my head as to why Oda doesn't just recognize that, like, this stuff that you're giving us, this is the juice. This is what we really fucking love. This stuff is so cool. Why not just give more of this and then cut out a little bit of the additional fluff that he wants to put in? That's always going to be baffling to me because it's almost like he just like gets in the way of himself sometimes, and that like it's such an easy home run, but it's like, do you want more stuff just like thrown in that's not the juicy stuff and takes away time from the juicy stuff just because Oda feels like it adds to the story in some way or something like that? But does that make sense? It's like, it's just complicated. It's just complicated. Overall, I'd say 10 out of 10. Overall, I'd say 10 out of 10. But it's not, it's just like, it can feel a little bizarre at some points because you're just scratching your head and you're like, why? Like, why not just give us a full chapter of this? Because everybody would love that. Like, there's not a single person who would complain if we got a full chapter of this. It seems so easy for him to do. Let's get stream likes up to 200 real quick. That being said, what he gave us is still phenomenal. It's just always going to be bizarre as to like, if you've got like gold on your hands, why not just like milk that a little bit, you know? Continuing on. Henchme976, thanks for the 5. I feel vindicated in saying this is all Ida's fault. Warrior King Harold would have respected Rox's strength and had his bros back. No, it's not supposed to be Ida's fault. Warrior King Harold wouldn't... I think Warrior King Harold wasn't a good king. All right? He wasn't a good king in the first place. I don't know if he would have respected Harold, or would have respected Rox. He didn't respect humans in general. I guess he would have respected Rox's strength, but maybe he would have tried to fight Rox. Like, I think part of the reason that Rox and Harold get along so well is that they respect one another, but they're not both vying to be, like, aggressive personalities. Rox is the one that's a bit more aggressive and, like, trying to have his way and stuff like that, and Harold is now just the more calm, mature one that's able to sit back and be like, I don't know if, you know, you're kind of off your rocker or whatever. Harold is obviously not mature when it comes to the world government stuff that came up later, but I'm saying in terms of what made their friendship click in the first place, it was mutual respect and just like their dispositions kind of clicked, right? I think if you have two dispositions that are like you see when Roger and Garp are always butting heads, right? before this God Valley incident. Like, they just run into each other at sea and they're just like, fuck you, right? You see Roger and Rox when they met at the bar, Shacky's bar, and they butted heads and they're just like, fuck you. I feel like that would have been the dynamic between Rox and Harold if Harold hadn't mellowed out over the years thanks to Ida. Griffin, thanks for the 5. So maybe Kaido's belief in hockey greater than everything came from this battle, but misunderstood it because he didn't see the final result of the battle. I mean, my only conclusion is that Kaido's beliefs in hockey transcending all is just that that's something that I guess became apparent to him as he progressed through the world, right? Realizing, just through series of battles that just because I've got the dragon fruit doesn't mean I can beat everybody. So it seemed like if I had to headcanon, he probably had that beaten into him over time, right? And then he probably realized in retrospect that, okay, that's why Roger and Whitebeard were so fucking strong, because he's the characters that he kind of talks about when he's facing Odin, right? He's like, okay, they had that top tier hockey. That's what really matters, right? So it seems that Kaido's conclusions are independent of this battle. PK Ziggy, thanks for the 5. Having to constantly explain the nuance of the Marines as an organization because the audience is a 3rd grade reading level is so tiring, LMAO. Yeah. Drakewater, Peggy's leg, thanks for the 2. Dragon has surpassed Garp, Dragon Piece incoming. I just fucking love Dragon now. I think Dragon's one of the coolest characters Oda has made. Let's get stream likes up to 200 real quick, because one of the things that I love about Luffy is obviously, like, one of the things that Oda's so good at is setting up scenarios where there's like a bunch of rules and restrictions and everything just feels so oppressive and tight and controlling and like you can't step out of line. And then Luffy will just like, without a second thought, just shatter all of that and do something really bold and be very proud of it and stand on it, right? Without a second thought, right? That's one of the coolest things about Luffy. However, Luffy does it from a place of just like, the fuck, this is wrong, I'm just going to do what I want, right? Dragons comes from a place of moral principles, whereas Luffy's kind of comes from a place of, like, intuitive feel as to, like, nah, I'm not going to do this because this doesn't feel right, or you shouldn't do that, or, like, fuck you, I'm just going to do this anyway, right? And that's really, really cool. I'm not saying I would rather follow Dragon as the protagonist or anything like that. But that same feeling that Luffy can kind of give, that Oda is so good at doing throughout the story, of just breaking free and doing something that's so forbidden without a second thought, and just like pushing your way instead of what the authority above you says should be the way, right? I like that Oda's able to bring that out with Dragon, but with a different slant, in that Dragon's doing it because like it's coming from a much more principled and philosophical place of like reflection of like what is going, like it's more taking into account everything that's going on and just calling things out in a more, like, if Luffy does it from a more feels-based place, like, this just doesn't feel right to me, so I'm just gonna say fuck it, right? Dragons comes from a more, like, he's actually calling out the principles of what he's seeing as being wrong. Luffy does that too, to a degree, but not to the same way. Like, Dragon's a different slant on it, right? It's two different flavors of the same sort of way of acting, if that makes sense. And I love, like, it makes me go back to, like, Ivankov talking about Dragon back in Impel Down, and just how, like, once Dragon's made up his mind, nothing can move him, because she sees that in Luffy. And it's just it's pretty cool to see that actually in action for Dragon right here. Tier Treviso, thanks for the 5. How did Harold get beaten by Loki? Is he top 3? If he isn't, then how the hell did Harold take back control if Rox couldn't? I don't know. Yeah, so there's something missing there. There's something missing there that we don't know yet. Let's get stream likes up to 200 real quick. There's missing pieces to this equation. Unless Loki's like way stronger than we thought, and then in that case, I guess the Shanks agenda is back in play, but it just all becomes so... Because, like, Dami reversied Rox, and therefore Dami... Like, look, this is getting into the nitty-gritty of power scaling or whatever, but, like, things do have to make sense, right? I don't think I'm making any bold claims here, right? Dami reversied Rox was basically shown to be the strongest being... You can debate, like, exact things or whatever, but, like how strong is Rox on his own? How strong is he with the amp? Blah, blah, blah. But at least the Dami... what we can all agree on, right? The Dami reversied version of Rox seems to be the strongest character in the story, clearly beyond anything else, except for presumably Joy Boy and Emu, right? That's what it seems like, okay? That's what that seems like. Dami Reversied Herald is basically equivalent to Dami Reversied Rocks. That's what we know, okay? So if Loki somehow is stronger than Dami Reversied Herald, that would make Loki the strongest character in One Piece outside of Joy Boy and Emu. And then if Shanks took out Loki on his own, no help from his crew, if that's the case, then that makes Shanks basically way higher than that. And then if we're going with what we know, then that actually makes Mihawk basically the strongest character in One Piece history. And by that logic, that means that End of Story Zoro is the strongest character ever. I don't feel like that's the way things are going to go. But you never know. I don't feel like Loki beat Herald Dami Reversied Herald one-on-one. Because let's be real. If Loki could beat even just normal Herald one-on-one, Loki is way stronger than Luffy is right now. Loki would be stronger than Kaido, Big Mom, etc. if he's above, just plain old Herald, right? If he's above, Dami Reversied Herald, that's unheard of, Anyway. Luke Brown, thanks to the 5. Biggest negative from God Valley is the Holy Knights doing nothing. Does Oda realize that when he makes these hype characters look bad against other top tiers? Yeah, I think it's tricky because, maybe from Oda's perspective, he already showed the Holy Knights looking badass when they, raided Elbaf, right? You never know Oda's perspective, right? So, from Oda's perspective, maybe he feels I already made them look cool when they, basically took down all of Elbaf and, an entire Yonko crew, basically, outside of the Monster Trio, easily, right? Without breaking a sweat. They conquered the strongest nation. They wrecked the crew that basically just beat up on the Beast Pirates, right? And it was just 3 of them, right? It was only Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji that are missing. So Oda might have felt that he's already done enough to establish the God's Knights, and then he's like, okay, but now we're at God Valley, and now we show that there's levels to this, and now we show, Rayleigh wrecking Sommers. Obviously, Gaban was already shown doing that. But then you also see, Whitebeard just, carving through that God's Knight. I think Garling is the big miss, because it's just, why do that? This is something odd that Oda sometimes does, by the way. It's been happening more and more recently. He didn't used to do this. So, follow me on this, okay? It's very strange because no. It hasn't been a trend. It hasn't been a trend. Never mind. It's only 2 things. So the first thing that I thought was really strange was Oda, before Oda showed us how strong Emu was, Oda had the Joy Boy hockey knot moment that basically had Emu fucking freaking out and falling to his knees and screaming and stuff. That was before he established how strong Emu was or anything. He just showed that oh my god, Emu's helpless with Joy Boy's hockey or whatever, right? Or at least severe PTSD, whatever, right? So it's weird in that the first thing that Oda did with Emu was basically kind of make him look bad, right? And then later on, it's Emu comes to Elbaf and it's looking really powerful. And then obviously at God Valley, it's oh my god, is Emu just fucking invincible or whatever, right? So Harley, no. So it's interesting that Oda went that route with Emu, which is just surprising. Usually you want to just make the villain look really, really good for a long period of time before you start suggesting that there's other characters like Joy Boy that were stronger than him, right? So Oda went that route. And then Garling, it's kind of similar in that Garling, I assume that Garling will look good later in the story, but Oda seemed to first want to establish that, all right, but he's no match for fucking rocks, though. It's weird that's the first thing that he did. Fatingo, thanks for the 5. A toast for all the TikTok book reading women that started One Piece as of recently. I legit love getting Whiskey Peak analysis from a 40-year-old soccer mom. I heard that so I don't know much about book talk stuff, but I do know that that's a section now in bookstores. I know that book talk is pretty popular, and I understand it's more of a female dominated sphere as well. So I imagine that this is probably going to be spreading One Piece even more. I think it's just cool that One Piece has had so many like incremental bumps as of late. Like obviously the live action really helped. I think the pandemic helped. Um, One Piece reaching lots of big streamers have gotten to One Piece over the last couple of years too. And obviously now it's spreading to Book Talk, which appeals to different demographics. I just think that it's really cool. Like it is becoming more and more of a global phenomenon. Like One Piece has always been a global phenomenon. Always, not always, but it's been a global phenomenon for years. But I mean, even fucking revolutions and stuff are using it now. The rise has been distinct in the last 5 years, though. I think it's. I definitely feel now like, whereas 5 years ago, if I talked about One Piece, I would kind of expect people to not know what that is. Now I feel like there's a solid, if it's anyone random, a normie person, I think there's a solid 50-50 chance, from my experience. I think there's a solid 50-50 chance nowadays that they do know what One Piece is. Jay, thanks for the 2. Roger Hockey Bloom video, aged like milk. Haha, all love. Yeah. That's okay, though, because that's not one that, like, that would have been a really nice to have sort of thing, but it doesn't diminish what we actually got. What we actually got was amazing. I just had high hopes for it, but I'm not disappointed in, Roger and Garp's final team attack or anything like that. Tio Treviso, thanks for the 10. Also, I mean, at this point, I feel like, as characters, who do I like better between Garp and Roger? I think Rox is my favorite out of the group. So, like, the Roger Hockey Bloom thing was never even really because, like, I was like, oh, I just love Roger so much, so I want him to do this. It's genuinely what I thought things would be leading towards based on past statements. But if I were to say my favorite out of the 3 characters, I like them all in different ways. I think Rox is my favorite out of the trio. Man, now I'm thinking, okay, if I were to just think about all these legends, right? I feel like my favorite, okay, if we're throwing Whitebeard in the mix, is Whitebeard my favorite? This is hard. It's very hard. I think, what's funny? I think I enjoyed Roger's character more in his later years. I think I liked the version that we saw in Odin's flashback a bit more. I felt like there was something a bit more unique to the feel of his character. Here, I feel like I find him enjoyable, but he still feels like a bit, it's kind of like, he feels like another variation of like a lot of characteristics that we've seen before from other characters. Luffy parallels, Ace parallels, stuff like that. It's hard to say. I think, whereas Garp has really grown on me in this flashback. So before I liked Roger a lot better than Garp, but now the gap is probably, I don't know. Now I don't know who I like better. I do find sword fighting cooler than just fist fighting. So that is a bias for me. And Rox is just obviously the shining star from this flashback in terms of character writing. Tia Treviso, thanks for the 10. I wonder if Loki is greater than Harold, and that is why Oda has him nerfed with the injuries in the present. Oh, fuck. And why this final fight can still have tension and still have Loki glaze. Maybe Blackbeard shows up later. If Loki is actually just, like, the strongest character in the... Like, if Loki is actually just stronger than fucking Dami reversing Harold, that would be so absurd to think about. It's just genuinely, like, what the fuck? Like, how even... Like, that's just... I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that... Look, anything is possible. Anything is possible, right? But that's very hard to wrap my head around. And actually... You bringing up the injuries point makes it really interesting because it's just like, fuck, like, that is true. Loki is injured. Is he... How ridiculous would it be if the reason Loki is injured and nerfed right now is actually to lower him to Luffy's level or something? That would be kind of comical. But anything's possible. Vices, thanks for the 5. Gaban and Shanks went to the castle during Loki versus Harold. We also know that some giants were there that were helpful. Jarl, that could have been a big team effort. No, Jarl is literally weaker than 5-year-old Big Mom. Jarl is weaker than 5-year-old Big Mom. He should have zero effect on that battle. Zero effect. He should have, like, literally nothing, right? Same with all the other giants. There should be they should not be factors in that fight, in my opinion. I mean, just based on, not even in my opinion, it's just what's been shown of the story so far, right? So I get that it, like, Jarl, again, 5-year-old Big Mom. Like, fucking 30-year-old Big Mom is out here and is clearly not, like, she got 30-year-old Big Mom got like taken out by rocks like immediately, like Dami reversied rocks, not knocked out or anything, but she clearly had no business fighting it. Like she was nowhere near that level, right? So what's Jarl gonna fucking do, right? Zero. Like put it this way, right? Just think about that. Against Dami reversing rocks, Kaido, young Kaido, 30-something-year-old Big Mom, like advanced Conqueror's Haki user, has her 2 signature homies, and then fucking Whitebeard, who's like in that state, like very close to his prime at that point, way stronger than the Marine Ford version of him. All 3 of those were taken care of by Dami reversing rocks like that, right? What are 100 fodder giants gonna do? Like that's so, they're so ludicrously, like it just wouldn't even be a factor, you know? So then it's just like Loki versus, I don't know. I know the Shanks and Gabon point that people have said, but that's curious to me because it's just like Shanks and Gabon, how does that make sense then? Because like Loki seems to hate Shanks for some reason. And why wouldn't Shanks and Gabon just clear Loki's name then? Because all the giants seem to think that, all the giants seem to feel like Loki really just killed Harold for no reason, you know? But there is a reason. And why are Shanks and Gabon just cool with Loki being in jail then, if that's, I don't know. Marco Saint, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 29 months, man. Loki can't be stronger than Dami Reversi Harold or even Base Harold. That would scale Shanks a whole tier above Prime Roger and Garp. Not even a whole tier above them. It would be like two tier. It's like some unheard of tier. It's like some unheard of level, you know? Let's get Streamlights up to 250 real quick. Let's get Streamlights up to 250. Dare Boppler, thanks for the 5. You think Emu or his clan ruled the first world since he angrily said that Davy was never king? Would parallel Doflamingo family ruling Dressrosa in the second world? No, I personally think that Emu's just lying. I feel like Emu's just lying. Like, this is his, like, not even lying. It's like a delusion that he's telling himself. Like, Emu literally... Okay, put it this way. What does Emu say this chapter? Like, what is he saying as he fucking sails away? I think people are reading too much into that claim about the Davy thing. What is Emu claiming as... What's he saying as he sails away? Right? What does he say? Oh, shit. Hold on. Let me pull up the chapter. Hold on. Harley, Casey, no. No. As Emu is sailing away, he literally says, what? Fuck, where is it? Where's Emu? Yeah, that island never existed, right? He just says that island never existed. He says Lulusia Kingdom never existed. He says these things because he wants to erase that concept. Like, things that he doesn't like, he is so narcissistic that things that he doesn't like, he wants to pretend that they just did not happen, that it's not real, that in his fantasy world that he's creating, like, everything he says, it's my world, it's always been like, it's my world, the world belongs to me, yada yada, like, this didn't exist, that didn't exist, yada yada, like, there was no king before me. These are just a narcissist's claims of how he wants reality to be. He believes sincerely that he is supposed to be the true king of the world. So he's like, no, there was no Davy. Like, you guys, that's a fucking lie, right? That's a lie. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's just like, if Emu's saying that, no, Davy Jones was never king, it's like, Well, I'm not going to believe that dude because that dude is obviously trying to push his own delusions into being reality. Like, in fact, if anything, Emu angrily trying to claim that Davy Jones was never the king of the world, if anything, that proves that he was king of the world, right? Like that's clearly a sore spot for Emu. That was the king of the world before him. He just wants to erase his legacy and pretend that that never existed. Carnage, thanks to the 5. There's something we don't know about the Herald versus Loki fight. The character who is stealing the fruit is probably responsible. I fucking forget about the character who is stealing the fruit. Watch that be fucking Who's Who or some shit. I do agree that there's something that we don't know about that fight. Otherwise, it just straight up doesn't make any sense. And I know people can be like, don't worry too much about the power scaling stuff. Don't obsess too much about the power scaling. But, like, I think that falls into a totally different category if, like, Loki is able to beat Dami Reversied Rocks. Or, sorry, Herald. Basically same thing. Because that's just, Oda's gone out of his way to establish just how that guy's, like, on a totally different level once you're, like, Dami Reversied like that, you know? I agree that there's probably something we don't know. Remontada, thanks a lot. Can Luffy beat Dami Reversi Herald alone with Zoro and Sanji joining? No, I don't think so. I'm not gonna lie. Zoro and Sanji, as they are right now, would be non-factors in that fight. Even if Zoro used Ashura, because I always gas up Zoro's Ashura or whatever, I think that would still be a non-factor at this moment. We talk again at the end of the story. Marco Saint, thanks a lot. I think Herald might actually figure out a way to resist Dami Reversi for a few seconds and ask Loki to kill him. It looks like Rocks could half resist, no horns, and maybe that will play into how they defeat Dami Reversi this arc. Maybe. I do also believe that it would be a touching scene if, like, Loki, because he's felt deprived of love his whole life, if he's able to witness his father, Herald, basically being so moved by his love for Loki that he's able to fight Dami Reversi for a moment and ask Loki to kill him. I think that would be, you know, a good moment. It would show that Herald did really have a deep love for Loki. It's just that Herald, his priorities were fucking focused on the country, for better or worse. Also, let's get Streamlights up to 250 real quick. Bane, thanks a lot. Roger cried for Rocks. He definitely inherited Rocks' will. Yeah, I mean, I do think that we will see after this Rocks basically inheriting Roger inheriting Rocks' will. I think that is what we will see after this. How do I say this? I think a lot of it will come down to the final words exchange between the two, because I think we will get some of that, you know? Synexus, thanks for the 6. Why was the scene of Raylan Gabon returning to the battle in this chapter? Is the fight not over? Will Rocks get back up? Okay, so I mean, I think it'd be really cool if there's more stuff to go. I also just want to see Rayleigh. I would love to see Rayleigh and Gabon in action in some way that's not just against a fodder like Sommers. So I have my own personal biases in that, like, I would love to see that. It's possible Oda just is having them come back as a symbolic show, right? Like, maybe it's like just to show that, you know, maybe it might just be for the sake of their characters to be like, look, Rayleigh and Gabon are going to come back to back up their pirate captain, right? Even if the fight's already over. It might just be to show that they, like, symbolically they're willing to have Rogers back, you know, after they've taken care of the things that he ordered them to do. So that's an argument. The other argument is that we will get to see something that's, you know, pretty... Who knows? Who knows what else could come? I really don't know. Garling. Emu coming back would be cool, but I doubt that Emu would come back at this point. I see no whatever. I don't want to, like, go down that rabbit hole. I'm just going to take things as they are. I personally assume that next chapter will be some tragic final moments for Rocks or something like that. Maybe Rayleigh and Gabon catching up to Roger at the end of the chapter. They all head out. I don't know. Random guy 123, thanks to the 5. Did you see people point out retcons for this chapter, like how Kaido's flashback showed he ditched Big Mom after God Valley instead of mutually disbanding? Oh, yeah. look, Oda's not going to have everything perfectly planned out. He obviously has the main story beats planned out, but like, I guess he liked this route better. You know what I think? You know what I think it is? What I think it is that Oda probably he had probably figured out the general idea of like how their falling out happens, but I wouldn't be surprised if like as he is writing the whole Rocks flashback and he's writing all of these Kaido and Big Mom scenes of them interacting and talking to each other, right? Then once he comes down to it and the point where they need to split ways, right? At that point, Oda's realized that organically, the way that he's written their character dynamic and everything like that, it feels more right to actually squeeze a final parting scene out of their relationship first, you know? I wouldn't be surprised if that's the route that he kind of, like, it is a retcon, but it's, I guess, more true to the dynamic that we've seen so far. I think we got a better scene out of it. Marco Saint, thanks a lot. Since I'm 3 for 3 on my Garp predictions, here's another one. All right, everyone, listen up. Garp at some point will go on to confront Imu or the Gorsei, and they'll blackmail him into not stepping too much out of line by threatening nuking some islands. That would be cool. Not the threatening to nuke some islands, but that would be... I would love to see Garp take some sort of a stand and try to get a better idea of, like, the reasoning behind his future. We got some reasoning right here, but I want to hear a little bit more from him. Maybe it's possible, because it would be easy for them to... Blackmailing someone like Garp is the easiest thing to do, because people like that, their whole goal is to protect as many civilians and protect justice and keep the peace, right? That's their goal. So, essentially, for them, you can hold anyone hostage. You can just hold entire islands hostage and be like, we'll kill everybody on that island if you don't listen to us, and then they would have to listen, right? It's not the same as, like, let's say, someone like a pirate, like Luffy or something. Like, for Sanji, they had to hold his dad hostage because, like, Zeph hostage, because that's who Sanji personally cares about, right? If Big Mom was like, well, I'll just kill some random island, Sanji's not going to care. But Garp's not like that. He's a Marine, so really any island that they threaten to genocide or whatever would be a problem for him. Malik, thanks for the 10. The cure to Dami Reversi is already on Elbaf, Bartolomeo Kuma, and the Pawpaw Fruit. Oh, that's interesting. Like, driving it out of them through that means. That's an interesting idea. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 250 real quick. Let me send a message real quick. Hold on. The fuck? Okay. Bane, thanks for the 5. If Rocks couldn't break Damiurversi, it opens uncomfortable conversations like end of stories, Sanji, Zoro, Dragon, Shanks. They can't break it either, right? I mean, you could split hairs about who, like, how strong you think end of story Rocks will be compared to those characters, right? And how strong their hockey will be compared to Rocks. But I don't think... I feel like... I doubt that the difference would be so big. Like, even if you think end of story, all of them are stronger than Rocks, I feel like it wouldn't be so much so that Damiurversi wouldn't work. So it's a complicated question. I mean, yeah, it's a complicated question. I think that there will be something like the Nika fruit, maybe the drum beat or something like that being a key to counteracting Damiurversi effects. I do think that might be a thing. And that's why it's important to have that fruit. That's why it's a key to fighting Emu, stuff like that. One thing that I'll say that I feel like isn't talked about enough, which is that Emu is obviously very, very, very powerful. But I feel like a lot of it comes down to, from what we've seen, right? To me, from what we've seen, it's two things, right? It's the Damiurversi thing, right? It seems like it can work on pretty much anyone as long as Emu can actually touch you, like, or pierce you with his tendrils, right? And the particularly scary thing is that it doesn't seem like it can be shielded against. It seems like it functions like Law's Law's awakened ability, his K room ability, in that it's not like a piercing attack. It's just something that kind of like passes through you, because that's kind of what Rocks implies. And that also is likely why Rocks couldn't block it, or maybe even didn't like properly guard against it. Who knows? It seems like Rocks couldn't guard against it with Conqueror's Haki or something like that. It didn't actually have to damage him, right? Same way that Law's attack was able to kind of just like pass through Big Mom, and it didn't actually like cut her until he did the ability, right? So that's scary on its own, right? And then the other part is the seemingly infinite regeneration. No matter what you do to Imu, he can regenerate. That stuff being said, right? My personal feeling is that from what we have seen, Imu's actual combat ability, like if he just has to box, I don't think that's on a different level than the characters we've been seeing. Because we already got a glimpse of it. Like we saw Rocks just fighting straight up with Imu by himself for some time before everybody else showed up, and Rocks could like block Imu's attacks, he could cut Imu, all of that stuff, right? So I don't think Imu's just on another level combat-wise. I'm not saying Rocks could just like kick Imu's ass or anything. Obviously that's not the case, but I'm just saying like I feel like the really, really difficult parts to deal with Imu are his seemingly infinite regeneration, and then the fact that like if you don't deflect his tendrils or something, like if you get caught slipping, then he can just convert you into a puppet. I feel like that's the two big things. And obviously those are two very, very, very big problems. I'm not trying to say that doesn't make Imu like absolutely broken. It does. I'm just saying that I feel like it's one of those situations where it's more dealable with than what people are making him out to be at the moment. Does that make sense? I'm not saying that I think anybody that we have so far outside of Joy Boy can just beat him one-on-one, but I'm saying that like if you had to make, like as we saw, if Rocks had to just fight Imu by himself for a bit, he's actually fine. And Rocks even had Imu pieced up and got taken by surprise because Rocks didn't know that Imu had Imu could just like pass a tendril through his body or whatever. Like that wasn't something that he was prepared for. Dick so small, pistol and balls, thanks for the 5. I think the Marine Sengoku mentioned to Garp survived an assassination attempt, tried to spread the truth as was Louis Arnott, and now lives as the man marked by flames. Shit, that's interesting, but wouldn't Louis Arnott be like really fucking old at this point? I don't know. To me, okay, like if I were to go back personally, I still feel like the villain that most closely emulates Imu is like is fucking Enel, right? Like that's the whole that was the big foreshadowing for Imu. Like God of the world, he has his priests, just like the Gorosei, yada yada yada, million parallels, blah 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 blah, right? And Enel was really like Enel was no slouch in terms of actual combat. Like actually, I think people shit on Enel a lot at this point, but it's almost unfair because in terms of just like pure combat, Enel was basically on Luffy's level, right? Luffy was a bit better than him at the end of the day in terms of pure just fighting combat, but Enel was still really fucking good. Like you take away his fruit and everything, then like by fucking early Grand Line standards, Enel was really strong, you know? It's almost like Enel gets like an unfair rep for his fruit being so far above that, you know? That it's like, but Enel himself was a bum. It's like, no, he's not. Because if we just ran into Enel without the fruit, and then it was like, oh my god, this guy's actually going toe-to-toe with Luffy, just straight up, then we'd be like, holy shit, this guy's actually really strong, right? Like we'd treat that guy as like a pretty strong character for that time. But Enel kind of got a bad rep because the fruit just the fruit just put him on such an absurd level, and it's like, well, you don't deserve that fruit because you should be like admiral level or something if you've got that ability, right? Like your general fighting stats or whatever should be admiral level if you're worthy of that ability, because we're so used to the powerful Logia like Kizaru, Akainu, etc. also having really, really top tier physical stats, right? So NL gets a bad rep, but the long thing I'm saying is that like what we saw in Skypiea is essentially NL was really broken and nobody could fight against him, but that was largely because of a couple key issues in terms of like you can't hit him, right? And he has some offensive ability that nobody else can deal with. But when it comes down to actually, if you take those things out of the equation, he is still a very strong fighter. He gave Luffy a very solid fight and required Luffy to think outside the box a lot to actually land hits on him. But it's not like he's above like a whole different tier than like Skypiea strong, like Luffy, Wiper, Zoro, etc., right, in Skypiea, right? So my feeling is that Emu might be a similar situation where if you're actually able to take away the infinite regeneration, right, and if there's a way to reverse the Dami Reversi effects or not be affected by them, then you've got a situation where I think Emu on his own is a dealable character in terms of like actual straight up combat. I think that you still have to be a top tier character to fight him, but you can see what I'm saying. Like I feel like it's a more NL sort of situation, you know? So I'm not trying to underrate Emu because it's like one of those situations with like, you know, if my aunt had balls, then she'd be my uncle, right? Like the reality is that Emu does have regeneration. Emu does have Dami Reversi and everything like that. I'm just saying that those are things that we've seen in the past in One Piece where like ultimately in One Piece, Oda tends to value like how strong is the fighter at their core. And I think with Emu, I don't know if he's that strong at his core. Still top tier, but not on a whole different level than everybody else. Oh, you guys haven't heard that phrase? That's a very You guys haven't heard that phrase? It's a similar phrase to like, if this person had wheels, they'd be a bicycle. That's a common phrase. All right, we'll leave it alone. But I feel like, yeah, I'm not trying to underrate Emu here. I'm just saying that like I saw Rocks fighting him. That's all I'll say. I saw Rocks fighting him. I saw Rocks throwing hands with him, and it didn't seem to go that bad. In fact, Rocks was piecing him up. It's just that he can reform, and that seems like the big thing. Emu can reform. We don't got to talk about other people's reactions and stuff like that, because like at the end of the day, it's frustrating because like God Valley is like a lot of agendas essentially coming together and intersecting. So as a content creator, it can become difficult to like, you might internally actually be really enjoying a chapter, but then if it's like a million people coming at your head because like they want to argue with you about an agenda or something like that, then that can like that can cut into your enjoyment of the source material, you know? So that can be frustrating. But you know, like yeah, like that's just yeah. I hope that people aren't being too hard. For me, I don't like, there's nothing here that I feel that strongly about. There's things that I would have liked. Obviously, the Roger Hockey Bloom thing. There's things that I wanted answers from, which is like Shanks, Mihawk. Are there other levels to hockey that we haven't seen yet? But I don't think that there's anything here. And there's things that I definitely did want to see, like, there's things that I didn't even expect, but that made me very happy, which is seeing, like, Garp finally getting his name cleared in a lot of ways and everything like that. So, and in general, obviously, people are going to get on your case no matter what for like certain agenda things. But I think for me, because I'm not feeling that strongly about any one agenda in particular here, God Valley is like just chapter to chapter. I'm just trying to not think about, you know, like what does this mean for power scaling? What does this mean for that or whatever? I'm just trying to enjoy what we're getting. But I definitely can understand like people getting overly aggressive and critical online and going after people. So I hope none of you guys are doing that. That's all I'll say. Hope none of you guys are doing that. Fatingo says power scaling is stupid. No, it's not. Power scaling is a phenomenal part of this community. And it's one of the best parts about being a One Piece fan. Power scaling is not stupid. But I agree that people can get way too mean about that. That's for sure. Oh, Jay, I think I missed this. I'm sorry. No, I'm just continuing on. Jay, thanks for the 5. No Roger Hockey Bloom. Is there something that could still happen in God Valley that would show him becoming Pirate King Roger? Love the Temperance cards in the back, BTW. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. I realized the camera's angle is actually a little bit different than usual. Shit. I don't want to move this. Did the camera actually just shift just now? Or has it been like this the whole stream? It doesn't matter. Okay. What was I saying? Okay, yeah, no Hockey Bloom, but I'm just going forward with the mentality that, like, okay, this is basically Prime Roger and Prime Garp, and they are at their primes right here at God Valley. I assume that Roger... Oh, no. Hey, Harley, Casey, no. I assume that Roger would need to get stronger because prior to this fight, he still seemed like he was kind of lacking. But as it turns out, he just hadn't really gotten serious yet. To me, Garp already looked like he was at his prime. I think just the way that the Marines treat him, the way that everybody talked about him, and then just like the way the Yonko reacted, like Kaido, Big Mom, Whitebeard, etc. reacted, and just the early stuff he was showing at God Valley. To me, it seemed like Garp's got to be at his prime. He's fucking 40 years old. This feels like peak Garp, right? I felt like Roger might be a little behind because I felt like Roger's going to have a Hockey Bloom here. But as it turned out, at least from what it looked like in this fight, Roger just hadn't really like gotten serious and showed out. That's very similar to Luffy, where like it's so fucking frequent in the story that Luffy can look kind of like shaky combat-wise in a lot of situations earlier in storylines, or like he's kind of like jobbing in certain ways or looking a little bit goofier. But then once he gets serious, then you see like a totally different level of strength from him. So I feel like that kind of plays into Roger's personality here. From what I saw, like Roger and Garp, if you told me that this is their primes right now, that seems to make sense, right? Because that seems to be why Oda had to make Rocks even stronger. That seems to be why Oda was like, well, I need to amp Rocks to another level that goes beyond Pirate King level or something, because, you know, he doesn't have to do that if Oda's just saying that Roger and Garp aren't in their primes yet, you know? James the Max, thanks for the 5. It would have been interesting to see Roger and Garp interact to Rocks' wife and child being hunted to show why Roger trusted Garp with Ace. No, I feel like... I guess that would have been interesting. I agree that would have been interesting. But at the same time, we could see from here... I like... You know how much more meaning Roger giving Ace to Garp has now that we've actually seen the incidents that bonded them together? I think it's really cool. Like, Roger even inviting Garp to join his crew is fucking hilarious. Synexus, thanks for the 10. Conqueror's Haki coding only seems to delay Emu/the God's Knight's regeneration. So why does Gaban imply to Loki that it is still the trick to defeating them? I feel like this battle can't be over yet. But Dami Reversi seems to be not about regeneration from what we've seen so far. I don't know. Let's get Streamless up to 250 real quick. Maybe it is. I mean, like, defeating them is... Like, once they're in pieces and are having trouble regenerating, then you can basically just capture them, right? But that's my logic. That's how I'm logicking it at the moment, you know? JWP, thanks for the 5. Thoughts on Emu literally being a kid? A la Where the Wild Things Are, a kid with a crown and his monsters. I really think it's the case. Oh, shit, that's interesting. That's a very interesting idea. I hope he's not the final villain then. I hope that Blackbeard fucking takes him out. But that is an interesting idea. Here, let me see one thing. Where the wild things are. Because I feel like somebody even talked about how some of Emu's like Gorosei looks similar to the where the wild things are monsters. But not really. That's an interesting idea though. Andre Apetri, thanks for the Apetri. Sorry if I said the name wrong. Thank you for the 5. Are we sure this flashback was 100% accurate since it's being told by Loki? I don't know, something feels a bit fishy in my opinion. Battle finished so quick and Mu left. I mean, I think this is not literally Loki's recollections anymore. I think Oda basically used Loki as a narrative device to open up the flashback, but now Oda's just showing us what actually happened, not just through Loki's eyes. I think he's just showing us the actual truth. JWP, thanks for the 5. Any thoughts on where the Strahds go after Elbaf? It feels like there's so much more left. Man marked by flames has to be at Elbaf, no? So much more left. Man marked by flames has to be at Elbaf. I really feel like, because Elbaf is Warland, right? Like, it's the birthplace of war or whatever. I think Oda's kind of symbolically setting up the story, like the final war, to really kick off from this arc onwards. So, I don't know. I feel like after this, the man marked by flames plot point will somehow be resolved soon. Don't know how yet, but I feel like it will be resolved somewhat soon. And then from there on, we will be going to Laugh Tale potentially next. Meek, thanks for the 5. I do think it's very possible that the man marked by flames could be at Elbaf or arrive at Elbaf. Meek, thanks for the 5. Out of all the posters, islands, ships, bosses, etc., which individual one is your favorite? I've yet to buy a poster, but I for sure want to buy the Emu/Rocks ones. Thank you for shouting out the posters. Hold on. Thank you, Meek, very much. So, we have the brand new collection of posters that are available for this month. Why is this not opening? Oh, shit. Oh, I guess this... All right. We've got this brand new collection of posters. Yeah, the boss posters. So what's amazing about these is obviously you've got all the iconic One Piece main arc villains and everything like that. And every poster also has key iconic moments from the arc woven into them. So like, for example, Crocodile, it's not just Crocodile, it's like the defining moment of Alabasta. And the same goes for like all of these characters, right? Like Blackbeard, you've got Man's Dream Never Ends. Big Mom, you got Luffy versus Katakuri in there. Arlong Park, you got the hat. So this poster collection has been a long time in the works. We actually released it almost a little bit too early back in the summer, and then we felt like, no, let's do the full complete collection and then put it out there. So now you can get any 2 posters, and you get another 2 free. And the big part is, with that, if you get the buy 2, get 2 free deal, you actually get a 5th poster, which is either Rocks or Emu. So if you're Team Rocks or Team Emu, you get to pick one additional poster. You get one of these 2 for free. So it's really buy 2, get 3 free. And Rocks and Emu, these 2 are only available this month. We're not producing any more of these after this month. They're gone after this month. The others will stay, but the buy 2, get 2 plus Rocks or Emu deal, that's only this month. So hop on that. And here's the last thing. We just opened up an Instagram for One Dream Studio. So here's the deal. If you go and give our Instagram a follow, you are immediately entered into a giveaway where at the end of the month, I will pick a winner, and the winner of the giveaway gets all those posters for free. The entire Boss poster collection that includes Rocks, includes Emu. So go give us a follow. The Instagram is pinned at the top of the stream. Just go give us a follow. And yeah, if you give a follow, you are immediately entered into the giveaway. Yeah, just don't miss out on this. Anyway, so you asked which one is my favorite. Which one is my favorite? I feel like out of all the posters, actually, let me share this real quick. Out of all the posters, I feel like I can do it category by category, because the boss posters, I think Emu's actually my favorite. I like how it feels like he comes out of the poster, so I think Emu's actually my favorite. Out of the island posters, I feel like my favorite is either Any Slobby, Skypea, Elbaf Knight is absolutely beautiful. And I think I want to say there's also the Moon. But the Moon we don't have up here. I think those are some of my favorites from the island posters. And then for the ships, I want to say the Law's ship, the Polar Tang, is my favorite. And I don't even like Law. So that goes to show how good of a poster it is. Continuing on. Anime Dimension, thanks for bringing a Pirate King tier member for 36 months, man. Congrats on the 3 years. Congrats on the new badge, the Pirate King badge. I feel God Valley is more of a redemption arc for the Monkey D family. Seeing Garp and Dragon here, future family is in good hands. And after seeing Rock's all legacy of Davy now accounts to Blackbeard, it's wasted legacy. I do think that this did a lot for the Monkey D family, for sure. This did a tremendous amount of, like, positive just PR for the Monkey D family. I love the entire family now. Before, I loved Luffy, obviously. I kind of liked Garp. I thought Garp was solid, and I wanted to like Dragon. But I was skeptical. That's where I felt. Now, obviously love Luffy. Love Garp. Really love Dragon. Super excited for Dragon. Yeah, after seeing Rocks, all the legacy of the Davies now comes down to Blackbeard. It's a wasted legacy. Yeah, the Davies legacy is really one of tragedy. Like, Rocks' legacy is one of tragedy. I think what Oda's doing with the entire Davy clan is really, really fucking beautiful, because One Piece, obviously a very uplifting story, but it works because it also invokes a great sense of tragedy throughout all of its events as well, that make the highs feel, and like the sense of catharsis and like redemption and stuff feel so much stronger. So ultimately the Davy clan is going to go down. It's going to come down to Blackbeard, who's basically a giant piece of shit. But the will of the original Davy King, I think, will be fulfilled by someone who's not a Davy in Luffy, Fatingo, thanks for the 2. What the hell is Uruj's purpose in the story? I don't know, and that's the exciting thing. I think he's up in Heaven's Realm right now, in Elbaf. Also, Anime Dimension, since you are a Pirate King tier member for 36 months, I just want to remind you, go get your submissions in for the Pirate King podcast. I will be recording that soon. For those of you who don't know, the Pirate King podcast is for my very top tier of patrons and members. And it is basically an hour-and-a-half long podcast that I record every month where you can submit questions, and I answer every single question, no matter what it might be about: One Piece, other anime, other manga, movies, TV, some real life, yada yada. You can ask any question. Answer it very in depth, and I can answer it in far greater depth than I can on stream, just because I have more time. So you get access to that podcast. You can submit your questions. You guys still, if you want to sign up, you have time to submit your questions still. And then lastly, you get access to all the previous podcasts. So Anime Dimension, you also thank you for the 5. Basing on SBS 113, we know that Gaban likes roaming around the world, so him being the man marked by flames and giving the last road poneglyph to the Straw Hats, that could be cool. You know what? That could be really cool. That could be really cool, right? I would love if the Straw Hats had to earn it in some way, because like they already had the Zou road poneglyph just handed to them. I like that they had to earn the Kaido and Big Mom poneglyphs, and then like just another road poneglyph being handed to them. I don't know how I feel about that as much, because it's like first they were given the first poneglyphs because of their connections, right? Their positive connections, Inuarashi, Nekomamushi, Odin, and by extension, like, Whitebeard and Rogers, like, former crew, friends, etc., right? So they were just handed them that, and then they had to fight the other 2 Yonko to get the next 2, but then them just being handed the 4th one also. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. We'll wait and see. I mean, I don't think it would be bad. It would progress the story, but I don't know about it. Meek, thanks for the 5. Would you prefer if the monkey ancestor in the Void Century was someone important, like a Joy Boy, or someone completely irrelevant / unimportant? The reality is that it's overwhelmingly likely that it's going to be someone important. So, at this point, it's the D tribe. We always knew that Luffy's from an important lineage. The lineage has just appeared to be more and more important as time has gone on. So now I'm kind of resigned to the fact that, look, like, it's going to be somebody important. I would not be surprised if, similar to how, Rox was hiding his true name, right? And it's actually the Davy D lineage. Maybe the monkey lineage is something similar. Because maybe I would not be surprised if they're descended from the Joy Boy line, you know? Monkey Young, thanks for the 10. Dragon's face tattoos have 3 red boxes, and it's in fact the road poneglyphs, and the final one leads to his eyes, which means he has or knows about the final one, and he's the man marked by flames. Look, people have talked about maybe Dragon is the man marked by flames. That's entirely possible. I feel like there was something that happened that disproved it, but I don't know. And Dragon, I think, does travel around on a black ship, and he probably has the ability to create whirlpools, so maybe it fits. Maybe it fits. I feel like there was something that happened that disproved that theory, because that was a theory that went around for a while, but maybe I'm misremembering. Also, we do have to wrap stream pretty soon. I'm sorry it's a shorter stream than usual, just because I do have a thing that I got to get to after this. So I'm just going to answer the last couple questions, and then maybe have to wrap it up. Marco Saint said the laugh tail is in the East confirmed. Man, Dragon's PR was so in the mud during the Kuma flashback, and now it's just like skyrocketed again. It's just like this dude will show out for, like, he will put everything on the line. Like, I think that's the thing. It was just like, why aren't you going up to save Ginny, man? Why aren't you going up to save Ginny? It's like, Dragon does that shit. Like, he is no different than Luffy. He will put everything on the line the moment that he sees that something is wrong. It's just that clearly post God Valley, and obviously through some more experiences, he realized that if he really wants to topple the world government, he needs to take the more long-term strategy, right? He can't just barge in and tear everything down. And it's clear that also everybody that he's recruiting to his army, right, he's doing it to save other people, right? It's not like he's building a crew to protect for himself, like subordinates, like Whitebeard builds a crew or Shanks builds a crew. It's to protect the people within the crew. Dragon's building his army so that they can protect other people. So it doesn't really make sense that, you know, the whole Ginny thing never made sense as an argument in the first place. Marco says, I've always maintained that he definitely tried to save Ginny through covert means, but just didn't succeed. Maybe he did. That's entirely possible that that's something that Oda reveals. But I'm also saying that that also could just never be established, and it still would be fine, you know? Because she signed up for the Revolutionary Army, right? She signed up for basically, like, not like a family, like the Whitebeard Pirates, where we're all going to hold hands and protect each other, or the Straw Hats, where it's like, you know, we're all here to protect each other and take care of each other. It's like she signed up for the Revolutionary Army, which is like, you're going into war against the world to try to save other people, right? So that comes with consequences if you meet defeat in battle or whatever. Carnage, thanks for the 2. Robin met Dragon during the time skip? She did, right? I think she did. Muhammad Kucker says, thoughts on the 2 calendars in the SBS and the current dates? I don't remember. There was some stuff about the age of the Sea Circle and the age of Heaven. I think that's stuff that I need to go back and sit with and process a bit, because I'm very curious about, like, the ancient lab that Frankie found and what that might suggest about the first world. And I think the first world might have been, like, the longest of the 3 worlds that we've had. Anime Dimension, thanks for the 5. On thinking about it, the Davy clan is a parallel to the Kurozumi, and Blackbeard is a parallel to the Kurozumi Orochi. Kurozumi clan was eliminated like the Davy clan. I think there are strong parallels there, but at the same time, like, a lot of it is Oda has the broader ideas and he pieces out aspects of it for the current story, right? Because the Kurozumis, like, I believe, if you go back and look at my recent video, right, I talk about the Void Century and what seemed to have happened there. Davy Jones, the original Davy Jones, likely was a good king and was the king of the Ancient Kingdom. That's likely the case. So I don't think, like, unlike with the Kurozumis, where there was, like, this elder Kurozumi in the past who did some really terrible things and therefore had to be overthrown by the Kazuki, that doesn't seem to be the case here. It seems to be more traditional, like, good king overthrown by Imo the Usurper. And it seems like the will was passed down pretty well through the Davy clan. But then finally a bad apple came along, which was Blackbeard, you know? JWP, I'm sorry, I know we're ending stream soon, but thank you for the 5 gifted memberships on the way out. I'm glad you're enjoying I'm glad you're coming through the streams, obviously, and I'm glad you're enjoying the flashback as much as I am. Everybody say shouts to JWP. Everybody, big thank you to JWP, because we're probably going to end stream on this. Obviously, a lot of you guys in the past have gotten memberships through JWP. So everybody say thanks if you got a membership through him. And yeah, I think with this, we probably do have to wrap stream just because of my time. But yeah, this was a really, really phenomenal chapter. I had a ton of fun with this one. Yeah, and I've got a pretty good video coming out this Tuesday. So with that, I will talk to you all next week.